Your bob isn't aging you, its geometry is. If your cheeks look fuller and your jaw reads heavier the moment your hair hits the chin, that's not genetics, that's where the cut is placing visual weight. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you 7 bob habits that quietly pull the face downward, and the exact, age-smart swaps that lift your features without going shorter or adding time to your routine. If you've ever opened a photo and thought, "Why do I look tired when I felt fine?" Or watched yourself on a video call and noticed a sternness you don't recognize, you're seeing haircut mechanics at work. A perimeter that sits on the jaw ends that curl under into a shelf, a center part that draws one long vertical, or a dense, pin-straight panel that behaves like a single sheet. After 50 and 60, when hair can be a touch drier at the ends and softer at the jawline, those choices exaggerate the very areas you'd like to soften. The fix isn't a drastic chop. It's millimeters and angles, lowering the line a centimeter or 2 below the jaw, adding 3 or 4 invisible layers at the cheekbone, shifting your part a finger's width, or flipping the front 2 centimeters outward so light escapes the jaw box and travels up to the eyes. Welcome to Golden After 60, beauty that serves the woman you are now. What you'll get here is transformative commentary, not recycled trends, but original analysis, simple hair physics, and real-world fixes you can do in under 8 minutes. No rules, just awareness and a kinder mirror. If practical, grown woman beauty belongs in your week, feel free to subscribe so the next episode finds you. For now, stay with me and test every idea against your own face in real time. Ready? Let's start by moving weight away from the jaw and back to the features you actually want people to notice. Secret number 1, the jaw length, no-layer bob, the chin shelf. A blunt bob that lands exactly at the jaw behaves like a visual weight belt. It stacks mass right where most faces soften in our 50s and 60s, so the viewer's eye tracks downward, cheeks read fuller, and the neck looks heavier. That shelving effect is amplified by biology. After menopause, many women see measurable shifts in hair caliber, strand diameter, and growth dynamics, which make the perimeter look denser than the root zone when the hemline is cut at chin level. In clinical cohorts, postmenopausal women show lower frontal percentanogen hairs and smaller average fiber diameters than premenopausal peers. Subtle changes you don't notice strand by strand, but you feel in the shape. The solution isn't to go short, it's to move weight. Lower the baseline 1 to 2 centimeters below the jaw and add micro face framing that begins at the cheekbones, with a touch of crown lift. That combination redistributes mass up and in instead of down and out, opens the mid-face, and lets light move through the cut. It also cooperates with real-world hair at 50+, finer at the top, a bit drier at the ends, and sometimes less dense overall. Dermatology guidance for mature hair echoes the same principle on the care side. Keep strands conditioned and flexible so the shape, not stiffness, does the lifting. At home, keep the fix simple. On damp hair, aim your dryer at the crown and the panels that sit over your cheekbones for about 45–60 seconds, then stop. Skip round brushing the perimeter under, that's how shelves are built. Let ends fall naturally, then emulsify a pea-size cream and tap just the last 2 centimeters if you're frizz-prone. That tiny restraint at the hemline preserves air and prevents the bottom from becoming the heaviest part of the silhouette. Here is exactly what to tell your stylist, so the geometry works without a daily battle. Keep the baseline just below my jaw, add soft crown lift, and carve a few cheekbone-level micro-layers so weight doesn't sit at my chin. Those are small asks with big optical returns. If you like to keep things sleek, you can still wear it smooth. Just ask for PCY ends or whisper light texturizing through the mid-lengths so the hair flows rather than hangs as a single sheet. That breathability is what reads youthful and relaxed on camera and in daylight. I learned this the humbling way. At 61, I was devoted to a clean, one-length bob. On Zoom, my jawline looked heavier than it did in the bathroom mirror. We dropped my baseline a centimeter, cut 3 invisible layers that start at my cheekbones, and lifted the crown by roughly 5 millimeters. Nothing dramatic, no one accused me of a new haircut. But the next week, 2 friends said I looked rested. I wasn't sleeping more, my cut simply stopped pointing at my jaw. Before you book, run a quick self-check. Does your hemline line up with your jaw when you look straight ahead? When you tuck one side, do your cheekbones brighten, or does the shape still read like a block? If you slide your part a centimeter off center, do your eyes pop more? If yes, you're ready for the below-jaw baseline and cheekbone framing. With the chin shelf handled, the next trap is a different kind of heaviness. The pin-straight, no-texture bob that behaves like a single curtain around the face. Secret number 2. The pin-straight, no-texture bob, the curtain effect. Pin-straight, no-texture bobs read like a sheet of glass. When hair is pressed into one uniform plane, light reflects in a single band across the surface, flattening facial contours and throwing every little sign of fatigue into high relief, especially in daylight and on camera. Past 50, when fiber diameter can narrow and density often shifts, that rigid sheet tends to fall as one heavy block. The eye drops to the bottom line, the lower face feels bulkier, and the whole silhouette looks static. This isn't about abandoning sleekness. It's about introducing just enough air and separation for light to move through the shape instead of sitting on top of it. The fix is a textured bob with soft mid-length layering and piecewise tapered ends. You're not asking for beach waves or visible shag layers. You're asking your stylist to break the sheet. Strategic micro layers free up weight between the ear and the jaw so the perimeter doesn't thud at one level. Slightly beveled, piecewise ends release the hemline and add micro movement you can barely see but immediately feel. Keep the crown plush rather than teased. Lift should come from the cut and the blow dry, not from hard scaffolding that collapses by noon. Optically, this subtle separation increases the ratio of soft, diffuse reflection to harsh, mirror-like glare, which is why your features look fresher and more dimensional even before makeup. Movement also carries a psychological advantage. Humans instinctively read small, natural motion as energy and approachability. A hair shape that breathes, tiny separations around the cheekbones, a perimeter that doesn't clamp under, a surface that's smooth but not sealed, signals vitality without shouting. If you've ever looked too done in photos after a flat iron pass, you've experienced the difference between controlled movement and immobility. At home, give yourself 60 seconds. Rough dry upside down for 30-45 seconds to inflate the roots and open the interior, flip upright, then smooth only the top 2 centimeters so the surface looks polished while the underlayers stay buoyant. Stop before the strands fuse into a sheet. On dry ends, a pea-size cream tapped through the last inch keeps definition without stiffness. Here's exactly how to ask for it. Keep it sleek but airy, gentle mid-length layers and soft, piecewise ends so it doesn't behave like a heavy curtain. That single sentence sets the brief for a bob that photographs elegantly and moves in real life. Marisol, 58, had enviably glossy hair that turned harsh outdoors. We softened the perimeter, added micro layers through the midshaft, and left her straight finish intact. The result wasn't wavy, it was alive. Her coworkers thought she'd changed her skincare. All we changed was how her hair handled light. I made a similar shift in my early 60s. 4 invisible layers between ear and jaw and a 1 centimeter part move. No dramatic chop. I simply gave the light a better path and my jawline looked quieter overnight. Ask yourself, In natural light, do you see one hard shine band across your bob? If you pinch the last inch into soft pieces, do your eyes look brighter? Would a 1 centimeter part shift, kept for a full week, lift your brow line on its own? Hold those answers as we take the next step, reshaping the outline. If a pin-straight sheet is the curtain, or the super short, even-length bob is the spotlight, up next, how a touch of graduation redirects attention and refines the neck and jaw. Secret number 3. The super short, even-length bob, the spotlight on the neck. The super short, even-length bob that hugs the nape draws a hard horizontal line straight across the neck and jaw, precisely where most women prefer softness after 50. Because hair weight lives where the line ends, that uniform ring concentrates bulk at the very edge of the silhouette. On camera, or in bright daylight, the perimeter reads like a ruler. The eye stops at the jaw, the neck looks shorter, and the lower face takes center stage even when your makeup and outfit are doing everything right. A better choice is a graduated A-line bob, shorter in back, gently longer in front, because it replaces that single heavy baseline with uphand forward diagonals. Those front pieces act like elegant parentheses around the jaw, guiding attention to the cheekbones and eyes. Give your stylist concrete targets. Keep the front about 2 to 4 centimeters longer than the back, taper the nape cleanly rather than stacking it into a thick shelf, and avoid an even ring that circles the head. You'll maintain the crispness you love, but the shape will breathe and the profile will look lifted instead of boxed in. This works with the realities of facial change. As soft tissue descends over time and the mandibular line loses its snap, horizontals emphasize what's settling while diagonals counter it. A little negative space at the nape lengthens the neck. A touch more length in front refines the jaw. Micro-beveling at the ends prevents the old helmet effect. You don't need a radical cut, just a smarter distribution of weight. If you want a quick trial at home, style as usual and then tuck one side behind the ear to expose an earring and create asymmetry. Leave the opposite side skimming the jaw. That single tuck lengthens the neckline and breaks the horizontal line without any cutting. If it flatters you in photos, you've just previewed what an A-line will do all day, every day. From my own experience in my 60s, I wore a precise, even bob for years and loved the polish. Until I caught my side view in a department store mirror and realized my neck was doing all the talking. I kept the neat nape I rely on but dropped the front 3 centimeters and asked for the barest bevel at the ends. Friends assumed I'd changed skincare. I hadn't. I'd changed angles and let the shape carry the lift. June, 67, came in wanting short hair but felt exposed. We kept the back tidy for scarves and collars, extended the front by about 3 centimeters, and introduced gentle graduation. She walked out feeling as bold as ever, only now the cut felt balanced. If you're wondering whether this would help you, ask yourself, does your current bob draw a straight line across your jaw in photos, and does a small change in front length make your earrings and cheekbones pop? When you book, give your stylist clear language. Clean nape, gentle graduation, longer front pieces to frame my jaw, no hard, even ring around my head. With that brief, you'll get a shape that stays modern, flattering, and low effort, and you won't have to fight your haircut to feel lifted. Secret number 4. The over-curled under bob, boxed-in look. A hard curl under at the ends builds a ledge beneath the cheeks and traps shadow along the jaw. On video and in daylight, that curve squeezes the frame inward, so the lower face reads heavier and the eye lands exactly where you don't want attention. Flipping the finish slightly away from the face opens the silhouette, releases light, and modernizes the line without changing your length. Professional finishers often teach curl away from the eyes, then soften around the cheeks, and finish away again at the jaw to keep cheekbones visible and the jaw from closing in. The same idea applies to a bob, endings that angle out reed open, endings that hook in reed closed. Keep the cut you already love and change the last 2 centimeters. Ask your stylist to bevel the perimeter so the ends don't automatically grab under. A feathered perimeter lets a microflip happen with almost no effort. At home, the method is clinical and quick. On your final brush pass, roll the ends away from the face for 1 second and release. No extra spins, no rounding the entire length. If you use hot tools, keep the clamp off the last 2 centimeters, tap the tip outward, and allow that bend to cool in place. For mature, fine, or color-treated hair, start near 250-300 degrees F, 121-149 degrees C, increasing only if needed. Most women in this category don't need to exceed the low 300s to set a clean outward tip. Stylists commonly recommend lower temperatures for fine or damaged hair and reserving higher settings for dense, coarse textures. There's a science cue for caution. Laboratory work on hair keratin shows measurable thermal change and discoloration beginning around 170 degrees C, 338 degrees F, which explains why repeated high heat finishing on fragile ends accelerates dryness and fray. Your goal is always the lowest effective temperature that sets the shape in a single pass, protected with a thermal spray. Here's how this plays out in real life. I'm in my 60s, and for years I curled my bob under because I thought it looked finished. In photos, my cheeks looked rounder, my jawline softer, and I blamed lighting or makeup. The fix was embarrassingly small. I kept my length and layers and retrained only the ends. I set my iron to 285 degrees F, beveled the perimeter at my next trim, and started doing that 1 second outward release. The feedback was immediate. People asked if I'd slept better. My client Anita, 64, had the same habit. We changed nothing about her cut, added a feathered edge, set her iron to the high 200s, and coached the outward tap. Same bob, new lift, because the frame stopped closing in on her face. Test it with your mirror and tell me what you find. When you flip only the front 2 centimeters outward on one side, which cheekbone looks higher, does a 1 centimeter tip look cleaner on your hair than 2? If you wear glasses, does the outward finish keep the frames from crowding your jawline? And what's your comfortable heat setting? 250-300 degrees F or 300-325 degrees F when you use a protectant and keep passes to 1. Once your ends stop boxing in your face, the next lever is the top third. A rigid middle part can pull everything south again. A soft side part or whisper fringe can redirect light to the eyes and lift the brow. Let's move to secret number 5 and use parting and fringe to keep the upper face bright and buoyant. Secret number 5. The deep middle part with no bangs, the vertical drag. A deep middle part with no bangs creates a single, uninterrupted vertical that pulls the eye straight down the center of the face. On mature features, that line tends to emphasize a high forehead and any thinning at the temples, and it often reads harsher on camera than it looks in the mirror. The goal after 50 isn't to hide, it's to control where the eye lands. A rigid center part makes the upper third feel longer and the expression more severe. Shift the part slightly and you change the frame. The most reliable fix is a soft side part paired with a side-swept or wispy curtain fringe. That small adjustment breaks the vertical, introduces diagonals, and places lift over the brows and eyes, the area you want people to notice first. Aim for a fringe that grazes around the outer iris, tapering at the ends so it moves instead of sitting like a bar across the forehead. Keep the density light. You're adding air and light, not a block of hair. If you wear glasses, Ask your stylist to cut the fringe to clear the frame by a few millimeters so it doesn't fight your eyewear. Think of it as redirecting traffic. The eye follows lines. When you create a gentle diagonal from the part to the cheekbone, attention flows upward and outward rather than down the center of the face. That's why a 1 centimeter shift can matter. It rebalances proportions, reduces the appearance of temple hollows, and softens strong verticals without changing your overall length or color. At home, the quickest way to test this is right after washing. While hair is damp, set your part 1 centimeter off-center. Blow dry the fringe across the forehead first, then lift the brush at the last second so the hair floats rather than clings. Use a small amount of milky leave-in on mid-lengths to ends and avoid heavy oils at the root, which collapse lift. Skip a full pass of the flat iron. If you must, smooth only the top half-inch so the fringe still has movement. Give your stylist precise direction so the cut does most of the work. Let's try a soft side part and a whispery side-swept fringe that hits near the outer iris. Keep it airy with no blunt weight at the brow. If you have a strong cowlick, have them over-direct the fringe while drying. It will settle into place without splitting. Maintenance is simple. A light dusting every 4 to 6 weeks keeps the edge refined without shortening the overall length. This isn't theory, it's what I do. At 61, I started noticing a little sparseness at the temples on video calls. A tiny part shift, literally the width of my finger, and a featherlight side fringe moved the spotlight to my eyes. Friends didn't say, "Nice haircut." They said, "You look rested." Tracy, 55, had the same experience. After 20 years with a center part, we slid it 1 centimeter and cut a delicate fringe. Her text the next morning was 2 words: game changer. Try it this week. Do you see your part widening under bright light or in photos? Which side gives you better lift when you nudge the part 1 centimeter? If you wear glasses, where should your fringe land so it frames rather than crowds? Lock in those answers, and you're ready to move on to secret number 6, the 1-length lob with tired ends, and the fast tweaks that restore movement without sacrificing length. Secret number 6, the 1-length long bob with dead ends, the hidden weight belt. A collarbone 1-length lob looks sleek in theory, but acts like a hidden weight belt on a mature face. When the baseline sits at the fullest part of the jaw and every strand lands at the same length, the perimeter compacts, the ends look stringy, and the eye is pulled downward. That visual heaviness is amplified by biology. With age, average hair shaft diameter and growth rate fall, while ends dry out faster. So a blunt, uniform edge reads tired even on healthy hair. Large cohort work and clinical reviews show the direction of travel clearly. Hair density begins trending down from midlife, diameter often peaks around the 40s then declines, and sebum output on the scalp drops after the 40s and through the menopausal transition, which is why ends feel rough while roots go flat. In a study of 343 Chinese women aged 2065, density decreased with age, diameter peaked in the 40s before tapering, and scalp sebum was significantly lower from the 40s onward compared with the 20s. The same paper notes density typically starts declining as early as the 30s. Clinical reviews in climacteric and MDPI echo the pattern in postmenopausal women. Reduced growth and density on the scalp and smaller fiber diameter as estrogen drops. Add the cuticle's age shift. Research in the Journal of Cosmetic Dermatology shows dominant damage patterns change in our 40s, accelerating cuticle loss, so even careful styling leaves the ends looking rough sooner. And because overall growth slows with age, the baseline lingers at the jaw longer between trims, exaggerating that heavy underline. The fix preserves what you love, length, while changing where the weight lies. Ask for internal debulking through the midshaft so bulk is lifted off the lower face without thinning the outline to strings. Add face framing that begins above the jaw, ideally around the cheekbone, to redirect the eye upward. Finish with soft, piecewise ends so light can move through the perimeter. Think butterfly bob, light, airy, polished rather than wispy. At home, keep products off the root. Work a milky leave-in from mid-lengths to ends, then emulsify a pea of cream and pinch only the last 2 centimeters to seal fray without collapsing volume. If you heat style, bend just the front ribbons and brush out. Do not press the whole shape into a flat sheet. I made this transition myself last spring. I kept my collarbone length, asked my stylist to remove interior weight between ear and jaw, carved 3 whisper-light cheekbone layers, and softened the perimeter. I didn't change makeup or lose weight, yet my neckline looked longer and my earrings suddenly mattered again because the haircut stopped underlining my jaw and started lifting my eyes. Beth, 61, had the same experience. We left her lob, debulked the midshaft, added cheekbone framing, and the heaviness on zoom vanished, same length, new lift. Use this exact language in the chair. I want to keep my lob length. Please remove interior weight between ear and jaw, add cheekbone framing, and give me soft, piecewise ends. Before your next trim, ask yourself, do your ends look frayed by day 2 even with conditioner? Does the bottom line sit right at your jaw's fullest point? Do your roots fall flat while your ends feel rougher than they used to? If the answer is yes to any, this lob tweak is your sweet spot. Now that your front is lighter and your cheekbones are visible again, the next upgrade is at the back. Replacing a neck-hugging nape shelf with a soft taper that restores neck length in a single cut. Secret number 7. The neck-hugging nape shelf, too stacked or too tight. A neck-hugging, overstacked nape compresses the neckline, crowds collars and scarves, and pulls the eye to the heaviest, lowest line of the haircut. That's the moment the lower face can read fuller than it is. After 50, when hair at the root often feels a touch finer and less dense weight parked at the nape reads even heavier by contrast. This isn't about cutting it all off. It's about geometry and where the mass of the haircut lies. If the perimeter clamps tight to the back of the neck, the silhouette shortens the neck and hardens the profile. Ask your stylist for a soft, tapered nape with gentle graduation and slightly longer front pieces. Those forward parentheses create upward diagonals that visually lengthen the neck and refine the jawline. If you prefer short hair, lean into a French-inspired bob that leaves a breath of air at the nape. Clean, modern, and never boxy. Think in terms of negative space. A little daylight between hair and neck reads elegant. A hard nape shelf reads bulky. A quick mirror test helps. Place 2 fingers at the nape where your hairline meets your neck. If there's no space at all, you're likely in shelf territory. You can cheat the silhouette at home in under a minute. Tuck one side and leave the other free to break up symmetry and lift the gaze. Add a single asymmetric earring to pull attention toward the cheekbones and eyes. If your ends want to curl under, pinch just the front 2 centimeters slightly outward with a pea-sized dab of cream. That tiny flip opens the face without restyling everything. Scarves and high collars should glide under the haircut, not fight it. If they are catching, the nape is probably too tight or too stacked. Give your stylist precise language. Please avoid a heavy stack at the nape. Taper softly, keep the back neat but airy, and let the front run longer for neck length. If your hair is dense, ask to reduce the stack by about 1 centimeter and remove a bit of interior weight so the outside line stays clean. If your hair is fine, keep the perimeter intact for strength, but bevel the last few millimeters so it doesn't clamp against the neck. In both cases, think subtle. A 2 to 3 centimeter extension through the front can transform the profile while keeping maintenance low. Ren, 57, kept telling me her winter scarves fought her bob. We softened the nape, reduced the stack by 1 centimeter, and extended the front 2 to 3 centimeters. Nothing else changed, same color, same routine, but her scarf suddenly sat lower, her neck looked longer, and her face read lighter. She messaged later, "I didn't change my makeup. I changed the space." I made the same mistake in my early 60s. I equated a tight, clean nape with chic, and all it did was shorten my neck. The day we added taper and a whisper of air at the nape, I looked like myself again. Even normal daily shedding felt less stressful because my silhouette no longer depended on every strand staying put. Ask yourself, do your collars and scarves collide with your haircut? Can you see any daylight at the nape? Which side looks better tucked? And does one statement earring lift your features more? Would you try a French-leaning version with a touch more air in back? If the answer to any of these is yes, your next micro tweak is clear. And once the neckline is open and elegant, the next step is to fine-tune the front framing at the cheekbones and fringe to amplify the lift you've just created. When a bob ages you, it's usually not your face. It's where the haircut puts visual weight, how much movement the hair has, how you part and frame your features, and whether the shape builds lift or lands like a hard line at the jaw. Start by moving weight to the places you actually want people to look. Hair weight always lives where the line ends. That's why a chin stop bob reads heavy on the lower face. Ask your stylist to drop the perimeter 1 to 2 centimeters below the jaw and release 3 to 6 micro layers that begin at cheekbone height, not at the chin. Micro layers are tiny, often 2 to 5 millimeters of interior weight removal per snip, so the perimeter stays strong while the eye travels upward. I wore a tidy, jaw-level bob for years because it felt neat. In photos, my jaw looked fuller than it does in real life. Lowering the line by 1.5 centimeters and adding 4 invisible cheekbone layers was enough for my sister to ask if I'd changed makeup. I hadn't, I'd only moved weight. If you're watching, check yourself in a mirror. If your line lands on the jaw, imagine it 1 to 2 centimeters lower and notice how the cheeks open. If you tried that adjustment today, which feature would you want to emphasize first, cheekbones or eyes? Biologically, this rebalance makes sense after menopause, when hair diameter often diminishes and ends run drier. A blunt, jaw-heavy line exaggerates that contrast between lighter roots and a dense lower edge. Reviews in dermatology and menopause medicine document reduced hair diameter and altered growth with declining estrogen, which is why perimeter heaviness can look tired faster on mature hair. Add movement where you want energy. You don't need curls. You need light separation so your hair reads strands rather than sheet. Texture belongs from mid-lengths down, not at the root, and a subtle outward microflip on the last 2 centimeters of the front pieces opens the face without going retro. My own routine is 45 seconds of rough drying with my head forward, a quick pass to smooth only the top 2 centimeters so it doesn't turn into a pane of glass, then a 1-second flick outward on the last 2 centimeters at the front. Same length, different energy. If you must use heat, set tools at or below about 185 degrees C and limit dwell time. Thermal analyses show pigment and structural changes intensify above 170 degrees C, and keratin denaturation progresses as temperatures climb. A recent lab comparison at 185 degrees C versus 220 degrees C found measurably more damage at the higher setting. And the American Academy of Dermatology continues to advise minimizing heat passes and handling wet hair gently. What temperature is on your iron right now, and can you turn it down for a week to see if your ends behave better? Use parting and fringe to open the eyes and shorten harsh verticals. A rigid middle part with no fringe creates a long, uninterrupted vertical line. If your temples are a little sparser or your forehead sits high, that line pulls focus where you don't want it. Slide the part about 1 centimeter off center and consider a wispy, side-swept fringe that lands around the outer iris. That small shift breaks the vertical, lifts the brow-eye area, and balances the midface. I wore a dead center part for 20 years because it felt like me. The day I moved it 1 centimeter to the left and cut a whisper fringe, my zoom face read less stern, same woman, kinder frame. If you wear glasses, try the fringe skimming the top edge of your frame. Most faces look brighter immediately. If you're testing this at home, take 2 photos, center part and 1 centimeter side shift, and ask a friend which looks more alert. For additional context your viewers will appreciate, Hair Part Theory, Summary of Parting Choices, notes that middle versus side parts materially change how facial proportions are read. That's the aesthetic logic behind a small part, slide, or soft, bang on mature features. Choose graduation and face framing to refine the jawline. A one-length, even short bob draws a hard horizontal, right where most of us prefer some blur. Light graduation, slightly shorter in back, gently longer in front, creates uphand forward diagonals that behave like parentheses for the jaw and lengthen the neck. Keep the back 1 to 2 centimeters shorter than the front, and let the front extend 2 to 4 centimeters beyond the back baseline. The why is technical but simple. Elevation and over-direction change weight distribution, so a graduated shape lifts at the crown and relieves mass at the perimeter instead of stacking it on the jaw. I like my neck clean for scarves, but when the cut was even all around, I felt exposed. Extending the front by 3 centimeters while lightly graduating the back kept the neatness I wanted and gave me a more refined jawline on camera. Turn sideways right now and check. Do you see a line that travels up and forward or a flat shelf that stops at your chin? If you tucked one side and left the other long, would your jaw look sharper or softer? Cosmetology cutting theory describes this precisely. Layers and graduation remove and move weight. The line you draw is the line the eye reads. Keep the routine short so you'll actually do it. A good bob does most of the work for you. Your daily window should be 5 to 8 minutes. Roots first, ends last. 1 or 2 purposeful passes instead of 5 mindless ones. Most days, I stay under 8 minutes. 45 seconds of root lift drying while I'm upright or slightly forward, a quick polish on the top layer, and I'm done. If you routinely need 12 to 15 minutes to make a bob behave, the cut is fighting your hair and your schedule. Mature hair often responds better to fewer, smarter inputs and consistent protection. Heat protectant each time, minimal handling when wet, and a pea-size cream on the last 2 centimeters only so ends look finished, not frayed. If you're game, tell me your real morning budget, 5, 8, or 10 minutes, and I'll map a micro routine that fits that number. On the health side, professional groups continue to emphasize that cumulative heat and rough handling raise breakage risk. The most sustainable upgrade for women over 50 is a shape that needs less, not more. 2 realities are worth stating plainly for your viewers who worry they are alone. First, as estrogen declines, many women notice drier ends, reduced strand diameter, or density changes. The biology is well documented across dermatology and menopause reviews, so your hair's new behavior is not your imagination. Second, female pattern thinning becomes more common with age. Population studies and menopause-focused summaries report rising prevalence in older cohorts, which is exactly why fringe, part shifts, and controlled texture are such reliable tools for a modern bob on a mature face. If your temples look thinner or your perimeter feels airy, You're not the outlier. You're the norm, and the right geometry will treat you like it. You don't need a reinvention, more time, or a dramatic cut. You need 3 levers, line, weight, and movement, set for the face you have today. If something clicked, tell me the exact tweak you'll try first and your hair type in the comments. I read them and I'll recommend a small, realistic adjustment you can bring straight to your next appointment. Give yourself a 1-minute proof test. Slide your part a finger's width, lift the crown as you dry, and flip the front 2 centimeters outward. If your features look brighter, that's your direction. Share what changed for you so another woman can see what a few millimeters and smarter geometry can do. If practical, grown woman beauty fits your life, subscribe to Golden After 60 and tap the bell so the next lesson finds you. We keep it calm, clear, and doable because the best hair at 50, 60, 70 plus isn't complicated. It's thoughtful. Thank you for spending your time with me today. I appreciate you, and I'll see you in the next video.